So for today, we are excited to have actually a real estate agent that specializes in helping seniors, whatever that definition of age is these days, to find their ideal living options. Tamisa is someone that I met several years ago. She is based out of the Scottsdale area, but I will let her tell us a little bit more about her background and who she is and why she does what she does today. But she's going to guide us along the facts about what's happening, what trends for women as we get to be over whatever that senior age is defined as today. So Tamisa, thank you so much for joining us today, and I will let you take it from here.
Okay, thank you for the invitation, and thank you for inviting me into your homes. Who knew when we got up to speak to people we'd be in their homes these days, but that is the new trend, and I don't know, sometimes it's boring. I get Zoominard out. I don't know if you guys do, but it has been convenient, I will say. It's a pleasure to be here, and I am a real estate agent that's been in the Valley for 18 years. I came out here with a husband that was going to retire. We moved out here from Oklahoma City. He retired. I had a design business. He encouraged me to close it down, come out here and retire with him and play golf and have lots of fun. Ulterior motives were behind his method to the madness. I always say I was dumped in the desert at 50, and he went back and married my best friend. Divorce laws are evidently more agreeable in Arizona than they are in Oklahoma. So I always joke that was my first book, is Dumped in the Desert at 50, and the sequel to that is Couldn't Have Been Dumped in a Better Place. So design had always been my excitement, and I'm an Air Force brat. We moved mostly every 2 years, but sometimes within a year, we would move several times with my dad's position in the military. So we were always buying homes and getting into new places. So real estate and design just kind of took on a synergy that became what I did when I was out here in the desert all alone. And so from there, I discovered that what I don't like to be called a senior, and I know a lot of people don't like to be called a senior. I am one. I'm 67 and proud of it, and I'm still mentally 18, and that's okay. So I call myself a recycled teenager, and that's just what I am. My kids are more mature than me, and that's okay with me. But it keeps me younger in mind and spirit, instead of being called an elder or a senior or whatever else anybody else wants to call us. We are baby boomers, and we're proud of that as well. But as we go along and age, I've always felt like aging is not an option, but getting old is. And getting old is all a mindset and a heart set. So I just encourage all of you out there that every day you think about how not to feel or act old and just to enjoy life. It's every next chapter of life needs to be enjoyed. We need to plan for it. I always laugh about how we plan for the weekend, we plan for a wedding, we plan for lunch. We never plan for the next chapters of life, no matter what decade they are for us. But in my real estate business, during my real estate business, my parents had their crisis. They lived in Texas, aging parents in their 80s and not healthy. And you know how our parents have been, that it's their life. We're not going to get involved in it. We're not going to mess with what's going on in their world. And that generation of people typically did it their way, and that was okay. But it's always important to have a 60-40 rule in every family. When the parents are in their 60s and the kids are in their 40s, it is time to let the conversations begin about how you are going to get older and what's going to happen. How are we going to see ourselves living in the next 10, 20, or 30 years? It's not a doom and gloom. It's not about who's going to run your show or own your property or own your assets. It's just having a conversation with your family members. They're not mind readers, and they need to know how you see yourself living later in life. And they are always there to help facilitate that. My family didn't want to hear about it. I'm sure you guys can relate to that, but the crisis happened. That crisis cost us emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially. It was almost draining. It landed my dad in his grave, and it put my mom in memory care. She had Alzheimer's, but suddenly everything was just blown out of proportion and worsened. And all of that could have been prevented with conversation. So I always start any conversation with people about planning for the next chapter of life. Prepare in advance, get your facts, your figures, and your documents in order. Let everyone know what you want, because your family they are not mind readers. A is for acknowledge the safety concerns in your environment, and N is just never give up that youthful heart and mind. So educating my clients, no matter what age they are, but I tend to work more with the seniors, has been my forte, to help people kind of feel younger, act younger, and just enjoy the rest of their life. I did write the book, Smart Living for Seniors, How to Make the Best of the Rest, because it's that important. And as we all know, as women of 65 and older, I guess maybe most of us are here on this webinar or this Zoominar, we may end up alone in our future years. It's just a statistic that women outlive their spouses. And I always felt like we had all the stress. I don't know why that stat is the way it is, but I feel like women have, we worked, we cleaned, we cooked, we raised the kids, we kind of held the whole fort down, and the husbands went to work, came home, and, we took care of them. But they probably had more stress. Their health issues are, declining sooner than ours. But I do believe we are the tougher gender. And congratulations to all of you that are women of this International Women's Day world. Yesterday was the specific day, but I think this is our month. So congrats to all of us for being who we are and where we are, and believing in ourselves and just doing what we believed in. We went out and did it. So acknowledge everyone for any kudos and acknowledgements that you have had. I know Marie wanted me to talk about some trends with the Golden Girls, and that is nothing new, really. There have been a lot of couple of women here and there throughout the years that have lost the spouse due to death, divorce, or what have you, and they have teamed up and decided to cut economic expenses. And that is the number one thing about pairing up and living with someone else, is to cut your expenses and to be more economically stable, if you will. However, I think the biggest thing for women especially is connection. We need that connection. We feel better. We thrive on the connection with others. I have felt really just my heart hurts this last year in 2020 of how isolated so many people have been and how lonely they have become, when they might have enjoyed living alone however many years they've lived alone. But when you're on sort of a lockdown and restrictions are in place, it becomes more of an isolation and a very severe loneliness that sometimes we want to think about what happens if we go through that again. What should we be doing? For several years, I have placed several single women in with other single women that get along, and I will be honest, they don't know each other. I have had calls from people that say, hey, find me someone where I can go move in. And so I've checked with people that have space in their home that want to lease out a room. But there is a lot of planning and integration of like-mindedness that takes place and is very extremely important. Moving forward in the future, there have been, the last 3 years, there have been websites and trends towards matchmaking. It's kind of like match.com type online programs, but there is a synergy to get a matching program for seniors that want to live together. And they go through all the I've never done an online dating and probably never will. I don't know how this may be effectively end result as far as the online matchmaking for empty nesters or single, divorced, widowed women. But it's been going on. It's Denver based. It's been going on for about 3 years. And let me make sure I get the gal's name right. Bonnie Moore works with roommatesforboomers.com, and she vets everyone, fields everything, and they have had some very successful stories in that. According to, I'm going to read this because I don't want to mess up the name. According to Harvard University Joint Center for Housing Studies, in the next 20 years, 80% more, we will have 80% more renters. About 11.5 million people over the age of 65 will be moving in with each other or renting space in each other's homes. So it's going to be a path that's going to be getting more knowledge about, more interest in. And I always say the very first part of that is meeting whoever in person, whoever you're going to be staying with, getting a feel for the chemistry, the dynamics, the like-mindedness, but it all will boil down to doing something on paper that legally kind of keeps everybody in tow. And I'm not an attorney, but I do know that when you go in business with someone, when you joint venture with someone, it is so important to not only have the marriage decree, but have the divorce decree already set up so that you know the parameters, you know the whens, ifs, whats, whys, hows, and any kind of discrepancies and resolutions that might need to take place during that time. But it's not going to go away. The Golden Girls and the Grace and Frankies of the world are going to start blooming and blossoming, and we're going to see a lot more about it. So just, keep tuned. And right now, real estate is so hot. And you guys mostly are in Chandler, Ahwatukee area, if I'm not mistaken. The Apache Junction, Gilbert, Chandler, Ahwatukee area are the hottest frenzy markets in the valley right now. There's a little section over in the West Valley that is booming as well, but you guys are in the southeast section that is hotter than hot. So if there are groups of women or several women that are looking at cohabitating or doing a co-housing type thing and both have properties, it might be time to sit down and put pencil to paper and see what sounds good, what works financially, sell one of the homes, however that might work. But it's prime time for market, and we're looking for inventory. So if you know anybody that has inventory, don't hesitate to shout out. But that's kind of where the future is going to be, where people are cohabitating. And I think 2020 gave us a little bit better of a picture on why that's important. Lesser people this year, just these few months of this year, lesser of my clients are talking about moving into an independent or assisted living community because they don't want to be locked down in that if another pandemic or if something like this happens. This was an eye-opener for many people in many aspects. Some people realize they need larger homes. Some people realize they need smaller homes. Some people need to commingle their homes or their housing options. There are so many housing options for seniors to downsize to independent, assisted, or sometimes in memory care, condos, multi-housing communities. There is such a thing as co-housing that I had a friend that got a grant here in Phoenix some years ago to incorporate a co-housing project. A co-housing project was designed by a doctor out of Denmark, and he's brought several to the States. There is one in Tucson. There are quite a few in California. For For some reason, the doctor's name slips my mind. I wrote it down, but I don't know where I put it. But anyway, what that is everybody has their own little pod, more or less, or their own little casita, but there's a multi-purpose type room. And there is sort of an agenda and a schedule for maybe Marge on Tuesdays and Thursdays does the cooking or does breakfast, and maybe Carol, one of the Carols, I think we have several. My sister's name is Carol, so that's a common name back in our generation, wasn't it? So they have that set up for not families, but it could be spouses, you know, a couple, but it's also more designed for individuals that just want some camaraderie, but they don't want to be stuck in the same room with somebody 24/7 or 7 days a week or what have you. But co-housing is going to be coming back with a vengeance, I believe, where people will structure that in a way that you have your own private space, but you have your community space as well. And that's kind of what the senior communities started out doing. They've just gotten very expensive, maybe not all that affordable for just anybody and everybody. They have the buy-in programs, they have the lease programs, but you have to consider, you put pencil to paper to all of that, and you consider what your monthly fee might be. You're no longer buying food, you're not, you know, paying property taxes, those types of things. So sometimes it can balance out, but that's something to sit and do a pencil to paper with your financial planner and your people that you're your best influence for what's best for you and your tax bracket and your income or your assets and that type of thing. So I've been rattling on, and I didn't ask if you guys want to interject any questions or anything that is on your mind before I go any further talking about anything else. Is there anything anybody?
What was the website at Bonnie Moore?
Her website is roommatesforboomers.com.
Okay. Roommate, M-A-T-E.
Roommates, ROOMATES for boomers.com.
Okay, mates. Okay.
And I believe she has a book out called How to Start a Golden Girls Home. But it's all going to boil down to the legal aspects of all of it. No matter what, it sounds fun in the beginning. We love our girlfriends. We love getting together, but you have to really put, you know, some focus on the fact that you're under each other's roof. How badly did that husband get on your nerves? How badly is this girlfriend gonna get on your nerves? What we see on TV with the Golden Girls was all fun and funny as Grace and Frankie, and they didn't even get along. I don't know if you guys have seen that on Netflix. I never watched TV, and I had Netflix for like 15 years, but I never turned it on until 2020 when we were stuck in our homes. And I watched Gracie and Frank, and they didn't even like each other, but they made it work. So there are means to make all of that work, but you do have to have some rules and regulations in place and structured for how it starts, the whole process, and how it ends if it needs to end.
Tamisa, there is a question in the chat. It says, I know a few years ago, home builders built homes with 2 master suites. Are you seeing that much in our area?
Lennar Homes is the genius for putting together what they call next gen homes. And it was a masterful thought. I was so excited for the quality builder, and they called them next gen homes. And what it did was have a mother-in-law suite, totally locked. You could lock it out from the other part of the home. They had their bedroom, bathroom, little living space, and kitchenette-ish. And that could be modified to meet the needs or the expanse of what was needed. But that was genius. Now that has turned into a lot of college kids coming back home, and not so much the mother-in-law or the father-in-law moving in, but Lennar was the trendsetter for that. They are still doing it. They're building massively the next gen homes in the West Valley. And I'm not sure, I don't know of any in the East Valley that they've been putting up that have had such publicity, if you will. But the next gen homes are probably going to continue. And I think Lennar, being a trendsetter like they are, will probably create something even more, trend setting. Maybe they'll have the suites on both ends of the home. There are a lot of 3D properties going up now. It's where you're printing out a little casita that goes in the backyard of somebody that, your family loved one can live right there in their own casita and on the property. That's new. It's big out of Canada mostly. We're not seeing a lot of it here, but they are working on that, especially with homeless people, because it's something. It's the new way in digital creation of homes. But whoever thought 3-dimensional? I mean, you can print out a tie, you can print out a necklace, you can print out a home. So it's amazing. But yeah, so the next gen homes are very popular. Stairs, sadly, they're still building 2-story homes, which there is a niche of people that need and want that. It's cheaper to build up than it is to build out. So it's making it more affordable, but yet those are the homes that seniors are having to find themselves to, relocate. I created a program for Scottsdale Area Association of Realtors called SAFE, and it's social and friendly environments. And so we have a call in that anyone can call and have us come at a realtor. We have a round robin of roster of people that will come out and do an assessment on safety of their home and offer any kind of suggestions for aging in place, design, age in place design, or any kind of modifications. But any fire department in anybody's area will happily come out and do a safety assessment on your home, and you can, take things and modify them. The number one accident in seniors is falling. And a statistic that is very frightening is that in the first 12 months of 2 people falling, 1 will pass away due to the decline of their health from that fall. So decline, no matter how serious your fall is or was, it can start a decline in your health. So it's very important to kind of go around and assess your own home. Do you have cords that are loose or in the way? Do you have throw rugs that are in the way? Throw them out. And I love area rugs everywhere. I'd rather see them. But when they become a hazard to my health and my well-being, I'm going to think twice. So especially the little throw rugs, just throw them out. If you have stairs or uneven surfaces, either get someone in that can level those things out, or consider where you could relocate if that's in your agenda to do so, and downsize into something that's safer, more social, and is friendly for as far as camaraderie for people you live closer to that you visit all the time. You don't have to drive to all the time. You can maybe walk, get some exercise, go visit them, or the amenities that you always frequent. And, we're opening up again. So there's restaurants that you probably don't, haven't seen or gone to in a while, that if they're in your little community, you can walk to them and get some fresh air and that type of thing. So it's really sitting down and constructing your lifestyle, your physical health needs, because everybody's got their own going, at one time or another, we're feeling perfect. And then, just the snap of a hat, something could happen. So just assess all of that. And Maria is a great person to work with on the financial aspects of that. Get all those facts and figures, because that's important to know how and what you can do and where you should be locating or relocating if you're deciding to do that. There's a lot of value in picking the brain of someone that has all the facts and figures and can help you put yours in alignment. So that and your legal documents are the most crucial parts of, as we age, to just be prepared. Again, it's not doom and gloom. It's just being prepared for that next chapter of life. And the worst part of having to tend to what the crisis was with my parents, other than burying my dad and putting my mom in memory care, was to go through their stuff. If you have stuff that you're saving for your kids, I want to be the first to make you aware I don't want to inform you. I just want to make you aware of the fact your kids don't want them. They don't want all that stuff. They don't want that dining table, that hutch and china cabinet. So just be aware that what we're saving that we want to pass on to our kids may not be something they want. And I have sadly watched so many families throw stuff away that their parents lived in that large home forever to hold on to that so they could give it to their kids. If you have something for your kids, give it to them now. Enjoy them enjoying it, or know that they don't want it and you can get rid of it and quit hauling around that extra weight of stuff. That clutters your brain, your mind, your spirit. And it's important to understand that that's some of your own well-being. Is if you have too much stuff and too much clutter, if you're saving it for people, give it to them now. Go enjoy the person that you're saving it for. Watch them enjoy it. That's even better than having to say that when I'm gone, you get this. And then you can enjoy them enjoying it. So there's a lot of structure and a lot of pen to paper and mindset at this time and point in our age, especially while we're of sound mind and we're doing good and we feel good and high energy. That can change like that. And that doesn't mean it's just because of our age. My brother was a happy, healthy 27-year-old that went to sleep and never woke up. So it can change in a snap of a finger. And so I just say the importance of planning for your next chapter in life, whether it's tomorrow or just next week or the next 30 years, it doesn't matter. It's worth it. And it's highly advisable, right, Maria? Marie?
Yes, ma'am. We're on the same page for sure. I do see a couple of questions related to condos for seniors. Are there specific areas you've seen throughout the city that focus more on condos specifically for seniors?
There has been in Scottsdale. I'm not positive about Southeast Valley, but in Scottsdale, they have put up some age-restricted 55 and older rental complexes. They have elevators in them. They have little shops in the bottom. They're kind of contained if people don't want to get out. They are not inexpensive. They're a little pricey, but you're paying for the amenities and the convenience, and they're really pretty nice. So I anticipate to see more of those across because multifamily permits have gone up this year. Just these first couple of months, the permits for multifamily have gone up, and it's yet to be determined what and where those are going to be right now. I'm not familiar with it, but I believe it's going to be more in the high-rise rental and senior specific, because that is a grand scheme of our population. Someone mentioned, I don't know if it was before we started, but people are moving here like crazy. They're still moving here. And the move rate into Arizona in the first part of this year has gone up 77%.
Whoa.
People are coming from New York, Florida, the usual places like Illinois,
Michigan.
but Florida and New York, we haven't seen that before, but they're coming. So it's gone up tremendously.
I'm curious, Judy and Debbie sound like they have some familiarity with some senior condos in Tempe and then down in Queen Creek area.
Well, mine isn't a senior one. I live at the Cays in
Okay.
Ocotillo, and so it's not designed for seniors. It's 4 stories, but an elevator, underground parking, restaurants right down by the living room. So 5 restaurants right across the parking lot practically, and nice amenities, gym, and so it's very active. Yeah.
Would you
Downtown
say
Tempe
it's
built
still
a big one on the north side of the river. So there's
In
a
Tempe.
complex there. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Tempe, yeah. Tempe has been putting in some kind of coordinating the thought process of university age kids and seniors kind of being in an environment together. So they've got some new places. Not very long
if
ago,
you
but-
want that or not?
Pardon me?
If you want that or not.
Oh, that is true. That is a true statement.
I'm curious though, Judy and Debbie maybe can speak to this too. It seems like, just by natural evolution of where we are when we're empty nesters and what you're looking for, I would almost see some of those condos, senior labeled or not, becoming, I bet most of your neighbors are seniors or near retirement, if not retired, and not a lot of families with children. Am I guessing correctly, Debbie and Judy, or not?
Well, with mine, there's a few families with young children because there is a Montessori school very close, but a lot of them are young professionals. The price corridor is very professional, with Wells
Sure.
Fargo and a lot of things up and down that corridor. So people, the first two buildings, a lot of professionals bought into that. I'm seeing more early retirees, and not myself because I've been retired like 8 years, but and some winter visitors, people that this is their second home. So they're here just for the winter and
There
then
we
go
go.
back to Washington or Michigan or something else. So, yeah.
Does the living there, does it facilitate getting to know each other? I mean, does it?
Oh yeah, they have book clubs. I mean, with COVID, a lot of stuff stopped, They have a yoga room. So somebody posted they're going to teach yoga classes, and they had a book club going, but they just haven't met in person, but that will start up again. And so
You've gotten to know people then pretty well?
I've gotten to know a few. Somebody once asked me, have you made new friends? And quite frankly, I don't need a lot of new friends. I need to know my neighbors. And so we're neighborly, and I do have a few phone numbers and things like that, but yeah, it's nice. It's fairly quiet, I mean, you're in a condominium, so you'll hear a few things, but nothing disturbing. So, yeah.
I did that same thing 2 years ago. I wanted to experience that life of not having maintaining the roof and the yard and so I went into a condo type living to meet more people. And I'll be darned if they didn't shut down for COVID, so you couldn't meet them. But I believe that's going to open up, and it's going to be great because you have the amenities, the camaraderie, and just having different people shuffling through. And it's great if there are all ages, because we all can still thrive from each other. I believe as seniors, we have a lot to offer in education and wisdom to people that will listen to us that are younger. And I always felt like the older generation, my parents' age bracket, 80s and above, had a wealth of information that I wanted to hear. We don't, the millennials may be a whole different ballgame now. They may not want to hear it, but we both have enough to educate and keep everybody kind of flowing on what used to be and what is now. And, it's the cycle of life or the circle of life. But I'm really going to think for the future, the high rises are going to be more, first of all, we don't have a lot of land left to do anything. Anything new construction in Scottsdale is a little infill. That's why Apache Junction and Gilbert and all of that and the West Valley, they still have the place to spread. They're still building homes. But I think we're going to see a lot more of the high rises come in, whether they're purchase or rental. And another thing to think about right now is that it's supposedly been, statistics say, in the year 2027, there's going to be a glut of the high maintenance large homes, because that age bracket of people that have owned them and are not moving out yet are going to be another decade or two older, and they have to leave, whether it's health reasons, whether they have passed away, whether it's just finally they realize it's too much maintenance. But that is going to take place sort of in a glut of time, where if you have a high maintenance large home, or someone that does, it might be in their best interest to consider selling it sooner than later, because the value of that larger place is now and may not be the value when there's so many and the supply is we have an oversupply. Since the pandemic, and even though real estate was considered essential, we worked through 2020 other than the lockdown specific. But what I've discovered is that families that were in small homes were buying the bigger homes, and the older generations that were living alone and or with a spouse, they were like, this place, we were just rattling against the walls in here. We haven't been able to go anywhere. It's just so big. So it's kind of like trading spaces, if you will. The younger generation with the kids are wanting that big space, and the older don't want to have to just rattle around in that big empty space. Again, if they're alone, it goes back to what I said in the beginning, they're just lonely, and they're lonelier as a result of what COVID, the pandemic did for us. But in anyone now considering at 65 and older that has a big home, it's between now and 2025 is a good time to consider getting the most money for that large home that you can, because it's gonna, supply and demand always dictates, and it will dictate then. There are too many high maintenance large homes on the market, and they just won't get the value.
Well, and
Maybe-
selling that large home can almost be a wash financially to your new condominium, you know,
Exactly.
so.
It can.
Or that could be that some of those big homes could be the multi-place for the Golden
There you
Girls.
go, for the Golden Girls, yeah.
They truly could
Right.
be. It's all dependent on, that whole entity of whoever owns that property. Do they start advertising? Do they start vetting people? Do they just bring in their friends that they know, or, widowed or divorced or single, what have you? So it's the vision out there is broad, and it becomes decide what you think you want and start working towards it, because you may have that large home that then becomes that sought after. Everybody wants to come live in this place. And, I work with a lot of senior or group home managers. So we look for group homes where they can house 6 to 10 residents. But now in that category, they have to be permitted for that. And there is a separation criteria it has to meet. So in these communities, they can't be, HOAs typically don't allow them, but they are. And there may be in every one of your HOAs, there may be a group home that you're unaware of, but they have a certain separation boundary, and they can be, within those communities. When you're just doing the group home with a bunch of, gals or guys, guys are going to start doing that too. I've seen stories of men doing it as well. Then, you don't fit into that criteria. You're just, renting out space. But I would say the laws will have some restriction, and some kind of taxable something will come down the line if that becomes a big trend, because, government's got to get their part, right, Marie?
Mhm. Oh, yeah. I see Peggy has a question. Peggy, I'm going to ask you to ask your question. I'm not sure what you look like. You might have a two-part question from the chat about associations. Can you unmute, Peggy? On the bottom left corner, usually there's a little microphone if you move your mouse around.
I'm doing it.
There you go. Now we can hear you.
Okay, three different thoughts was what I was going for. Is in my Golden Girls concept, somehow we get one moderately aged person who could change the light bulbs that's 2 stories up that we can't do. Some of that stuff we don't have the strength to do anymore, and a handyman is not going to come out and change a light bulb. So I was thinking, is there an association where they have foreign students that are coming for graduate school and just need to rent a room or something like that, that when you are in that, you could just have somebody that's there all the time in case we've all fallen and can't get up or something?
There has been that going on for decades. Foreign students come and rent rooms from a lot of different people. My sister used to do that. I've got friends that still do that in other parts of the country. That would just be a separate reach out to advertising and being very, very, very cautious of who you bring into your home that is of that moderate age bracket that would be the handyman or handy gal person.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't just be that. It's just that there's someone there that is more able physically than the rest of us.
Like a
And it
house.
wouldn't be a permanent person, you know.
In this case, a house daughter that
Yeah.
can do all those things. I think that would just be the structure of whoever you're bringing into your home. If it's 3 or 4 gals, you sit down and structure, what do we want and how are we going to bring this type of person in? What will we offer them in compensation for just living here at, you know, maybe no expense or little expense, so that they can be there for those types of things. So that would just really be sitting down and flushing out of everybody's head what they're looking for, how they're looking for it, and then start seeking that and vetting it, and maybe going to the resources of people, trusted resources that can maybe help you do that, because
That's what I was asking. Do you know of any?
I do not right now, but that creates a very interesting question for me to go look at and look into, because I think that has value and will continue to be of more value as people start doing this on more of a regular basis. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm not aware of any.
And
Now,
in a more generous spirit, there must be something for, you're always hear of aging out foster children, things like that.
There are several programs. CASA is one of them. Manifestation is another one that work with the aging of the foster kids aging out of the foster care, because when they turn 18, they just, you know, they're just let go. They're put out on the street with what little bag they came with or what they have that they can carry. And it's really sad. So CASA, C-A-S-A, is a local one. Manifestation is out of California, but he's global. Those are the only two I'm very aware of. I'm sure there are many. There are a lot. Now there is, and I don't know if this would incorporate, because I haven't investigated this. I know there is a Silver Nest group that is a membership site for $49.99 for 60 days. People can be on the Silver Nest, and it's 50 years old and up. They may have different tabs in there for platform for that. I haven't investigated it, but that is another one to maybe look at and see what they offer, because the roommates for boomers and the Silver Nest and any of these created sites are going to address all of those things, because people, before they put them out there, are brainstorming and figuring out what are the needs. And that might be a great thing for you guys to have a brainstorming meeting of, these are the needs I have. How can we structure this so that other people our age or older can benefit from it? And how can we, you know, just start working towards it? But it takes a lot of brainstorming and a lot of thought and a lot of processing of, every state has aging, it's the AAA, it's Area Agency on Aging. They've got a lot of different places, departments that can help. They've been so overwhelmed. People, I have discovered in 2020, were not getting as much help as they needed, but they were overwhelmed. So I know all of this type of thing is ongoing, because the senior industry is a booming industry, if you will, and we're all the boomers that, you know, there's not going to be any more of us, but we are, you know, we did hit front and center, and we got to be, everything we need has to be addressed, because us boomers just don't settle for anything less, you know. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of brainstorming needs to be put in place with a lot of us senior groups, especially the single women. Because we've had to learn to do a lot more than we ever thought we would want to do or have to do. And we're doing a pretty darn good job, I have to say. I have kudos to all of us, but it's all a learning curve. And 2020, if 2020 taught us anything, it's taught us to be prepared and creative and get a vision for what is our best interest, and how we can live safely and securely as we age. But again, aging is not an option, but getting old is.
Tamisa, I have a question. I'm curious if, when you see women sharing a home, as an example, is it typically one woman owns it and the others rent, or are you seeing much for co-owning with 2 or more owners? Or
so far, I have seen one owner that rents out space. No matter how it's done, legally put everything in writing that gets the structure, and there are no questions asked of who gets the garage. If we're renting the place together, who gets the master bedroom, who gets the garage, because there's not going to be all of that for everybody. So all of that has to be, you know, put on paper and everybody agree to it. Now, is there a floating compensation for your rent is higher if you have this and you do that? Yes, that will be the case. But typically the women I've worked with that wanted to rent a room, I've actually found the people that own the home that say, yes, I will rent this room and bath, you know, and then they get they work out what works for them for not community time, but the rest of the house, you know, and how they operate the kitchen, or maybe they cook together. Maybe it's going to depend on personalities. I always feel like, first of all, go to the people you relate to the most that you can all benefit from. But a lot of these, like the roommate for boomers, these people aren't knowing each other, anything about each other. So that's not just the match.com where you're dating and you get to go home to your own space. When you're roommate.com, you are living with that person. You're not getting to figure them out. But there's a structured time of how they make all that happen properly. No one's going to go into it blindsided, I wouldn't think. But there's going to be a lot of kinks to work out. And the more you put up out front of what you expect, how you want it, and who pays what, and who's expected to do what, the better off the whole project will turn out.
Sure.
We
Other
have,
questions? Go
no,
ahead, Deb.
I was just going to say, we have one AFAN member, Mary Peterson. I'm sure she doesn't mind me mentioning her name, but she gave up her home many years ago, had rented a room from someone in a home. Then that person, after many years, decided they were going to sell their house. So she had to look for someplace new, and, you know, ended up renting from a woman she didn't know, who actually was renting the home. And they've gone off together and rented another house that they thought was going to be more appropriate for them. So they get along well. She said it's been wonderful in this pandemic. They've had kind of each other. They have their own space and, you know, all that. But yeah, she's been doing this for a number of years.
That's great.
So,
The
yeah.
latest person I had in December was asking me to find her a place because the home that she had been renting a room in and had her specific space for what she did, the gal decided to sell. And she didn't want to have to, you know, stay in there and well, I think people that bought it was for themselves, and they. So it's like starting over there. So there is that risk factor involved. And I think we just have to be very open-minded about that can happen. And what do we do if it does? But, you know, I've always heard, I am not drama. My world as a female, I don't do drama. I'm not drama. But I've always heard that women are just cat fighters. And I don't get that because I'm not that. But I don't know. Is it every age they become that? So you got to make sure you're not going to be in a cat fight with somebody in your house. Make sure your personalities have some kind of ebb and flow and you can tolerate. And then most often in this age bracket, people aren't working. So they're in that space all the time. And it's not like before when both parties went to work and you just came home and shared space at night. You were, you know, in the space 24/7. And so a lot of things have to be worked out, but that is going to be the trend we're going to be seeing more and more of, and we're going to see more and more websites developed as a result of it, because the ones that are going now have only been in about 3 years. And I think we're going to see a lot more. But
yeah. And as an aside, from the fall perspective, I'm on the 3rd floor and the garage is underground. So I try to walk those stairs every day, you know, if I don't have packages in my hand. And my daughter asked me when I first moved in, she said, well, I bet you see a lot of people because it's inactive. And I said, no, I don't really see anybody in the stairwells very often. She said, well, they have cameras there. And I go, no, they don't. I don't think they have cameras. She said, well, you have to stop doing that. What if you fall? You know, I said, well, if you're so concerned, you get me that Apple Watch for Christmas, which they promptly did. Because it is the watch that if you fall And they'll come right on and say, do you need something or assistance? And if you don't answer, they're calling 911. So yeah, so it's kind of a neat little thing. I took about a week to turn it on, I told her, but I did finally turn it on.
You know, we all don't want that invasion of people
Yeah.
watching us, but at some point we're like glad that somebody's watching. So those stairwells might benefit that community too.
Yeah, yeah. So it was nice to have this just in case I trip and fall, I guess, and crack my head.
I was telling Marie before we got started here, we got on a little bit earlier, but I have never been an exerciser and I just don't like it. Had no desire to sweat and get yucky. And so, but my mom passed away from Alzheimer's, and I believe one of the culprits of Alzheimer's is lack of exercise. And I decided I've got to do something. So last Thanksgiving, I started an exercise program with a group of people that we've exercised outside through the winter, which has been a really pleasant winter. And what I did to make myself commit to it, because it's like exercise is not one of those things you roll out of bed at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to do, or I don't. And so I joined, they do a body transformation challenge every 21 days. And I thought, well, if I join that would at least make me accountable to me to get up and go, exercise. And never a thought of like really having any aspect of the body transformation challenge. It was just to challenge my brain to get out of bed, to go exercise and do it daily. Well, I took second place in that competition. So the first place gal was 23 years old and the second place gal was 28. And there I was at 67 taking second place. And I have more energy from doing that and holding myself accountable. I lost 12 pounds. I lost 8% body fat. My metabolic age is 34 years old. I have so much energy, I don't know what to do with it. But I decided that's probably the best thing I could have ever done for myself, for my future, no matter where I live. I can get up the stairs or down the stairs and not be a burden. So I think health and wellness is huge in whatever you're doing, no matter who you're moving in with or who you're having move in with you, because you wanna thrive in that environment no matter what. And I know we all have health issues and they're coming and going, and but who knows who will move in with you and what their issues might be. But it's all about thriving as best you can. So practice your own well-being before you bring in other people that may be a burden to you.
To me, so one last area before we run out of time. I know we just have 5 minutes left. One other thing that you and I have talked about, and I've heard a little bit about this and I'm seeing more interest, especially from the fact that, like, when I'm helping folks think about the future and they're getting their documents in order, the home, 99% of the time, the family sells it. A lot of times it used to be the parents kept it in mind, thinking that somebody would use it. It's not the case most of the time. So I know there's also a charitable option for those that don't need it now or down the road, or the family, it's not an asset that is needed in the legacy side of things. How can a home be used charitably?
So that is a great question. Since 1917, real estate has been donated to charities for nonprofits to be funded. But it's always been something the nonprofits do not want, because there's red tape, there are loans, there are property taxes, there are liens, there could be all kinds of red tape that the nonprofit doesn't want to deal with. About 3 years ago, this company called Realty Gift Fund got back on board and said, hey, we will be the middle guy that takes all the risk. We will be in contract with the donor who wants to donate all or part of, or maybe they have lots or land or cabins or something they've never used. And it's like, how do we disperse that and get tax breaks before we pass away or not burden our kids with it? You can, the donor can decide to donate all of the proceeds to a specific nonprofit. The nonprofit doesn't have to do anything but open their arms and say thank you, because this middleman that takes on the heavy lifting will pay it off, do all the repairs, pay the commissions for realtors to sell it, that type of thing. And then they write a check for the net proceeds. If the donor wants it, all the net proceeds to go to the nonprofit, and they do that. If the donor wants part of the profits back for their own well-being, so be it. It's all worked out in the contract, but that is a way to create legacy, to avoid tax. It gives you tax breaks in some cases. There's the charitable tax benefits that Marie can fill you all in on. And then it also takes a headache from your kids, but they still get their inheritance. It's just it's a way to eliminate a lot of red tape at the end of life. And if you have several properties or just something extra, I will tell you a quick story. I know you just have a few minutes, but there was a gal that used to donate $25 a year, very moderate income gal, couldn't afford a lot. For $25 for each year, she donated $25 a year to the MS Society, Muscular Dystrophy. The MS Society, not muscular dystrophy. And she had this piece of land she had forgotten about. It just was kind of a tax write-off thing. She never used it. It became so important to her. She decided, who do I go to? Who do I talk to about donating? So she donated this little piece of land that netted the MS Society $43,000 and she's been just $25 a year for about 20 years donating. And then suddenly she funded this little group, an organization in her town. So it's all about nonprofits now getting funded, not having to raise funds. And as we just went through 2020, you can't do fundraisers anymore. You can't have the galas, you can't have the bake sales, you can't do anything to fund. So nonprofits are hurting. So if you know any nonprofit that needs help, have them call me or get in touch with Marie to get in touch with me. And you know, anyone that may need a tax break, or Marie, you may know, tax breaks or any kind of way to soften what they'll pay and still get proceeds from their extra properties that they really don't want anything to do with, or their home they're in if they're downsizing and they want to just donate some to that. But we're funding nonprofits. I am the only charitable real estate specialist in the state of Arizona. So we are funding nonprofits like crazy. The average donation to a nonprofit is $550,000, and we're helping a lot of people, and then donors are getting to build their legacy and eliminate a lot of red tape and get some tax breaks.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
So we are right at our hour. I'm going to thank everyone for attending, and Tomisa for sharing the information. I'm sure if there's a few additional questions, we'll stick around and be glad to do that, but we want to let those that need to jump off and move forward with their day to do that. But we'll look forward to whoever can join us next month as we look a little closer at some of the homes, similar topic, but more on the mortgage side, refinancing, purchasing, all those thoughts. So thank you everybody for attending, and we will entertain some additional questions for those that would like to stay around.